أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة. Respected guests, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Whether it be the warm embrace of a mother or the smile of a friend, love is a feeling we've all been well acquainted with. In Surah Rum, chapter 30 of the Holy Quran, Allah the Almighty gives us a beautiful reminder that speaks to the essence of companionship and love. He says, "And one of His signs is this, that He has created wives for you from among yourselves, that you may find peace of mind in them. And He has put love and tenderness between you." What's truly remarkable is how marriage redefines love for us all and allows us to experience the world in a way we never considered possible. A spouse, it's not just someone who changes how we find delight in this world, but it's someone who changes how we traverse the struggles, the trials, the tribulations of this very life. The promised Messiah, he taught that marriage is intended to relieve us the anguish of loneliness by fostering a deep mutual attachment between spouses. Marriage is a divine gift meant to be cherished and nurtured. Yet we find divorce becoming an increasingly common occurrence throughout the world. Our very Jamaat, though the numbers are significantly lower, has seen a rise in divorces over the years. The relationship between a husband and wife should be like two true and sincere friends. This teaching of the promised Messiah is echoed nearly every time marriage is discussed. Yet somehow, despite having teachings from the Quran, the Holy Prophet ﷺ, the promised Messiah ﷺ, even the Khulafa, it's not uncommon to find a house in which parents have quibbled not just once or twice, but many times over trivial matters. Those of us sitting in this room who are married, we can all likely recall a time we had a petty dispute with our spouses as well. Those who have been raised in a Western society, they see their colleagues, their friends leading seemingly happy lives. They're dating whoever they find for the pursuit of happiness and love. As Ahmadis, we understand dating, love at first sight. These are all concepts that largely lead to failed marriages. But if we as Muslims, if we have the same problems as those embracing the Western lifestyle, why go through what some call the tedious, arduous process of getting married Islamically? Why not just date and find a spouse? What does an Islamic marriage have to offer that's so special? The blessed marriage of the promised Messiah to Hazrat Amma Jaan radiyallahu anha gives us that answer. It gives us insight into not just why an Islamic marriage is special, but how we too can have a healthy, lasting relationship of our own. We find our first glimpse of that answer in the newlywed life of the promised Messiah. As any newlywed knows, the first few months of marriage, they're exhilarating. It's a time where you're nervous, but you're also thrilled. You're ready to bond, ready to create new memories with your spouse. You want to learn about their likes, their dislikes, their favorite foods. The wife of the promised Messiah, Hazrat Amma Jaan radiyallahu anha, she felt no different. When she learned of her husband's fondness for sweet rice, she felt a surge of excitement. Eager to surprise her husband that night for dinner, she gathered the necessary ingredients and she gleefully began her preparation. As she neared the final steps of her dish, though, it wasn't happiness she felt. Rather, it was a growing sense of anxiety, of dread. All her meticulous hard work The time, the preparation, the resources invested, they all seemed wasted because she quadrupled the amount of sugar the dish asked for. What was meant to be a decadent dessert was now a thick, gluey mixture. It's no foreign feeling to anyone who's done any type of cooking or baking for a loved one. Realizing a simple, avoidable mistake has left your dish inedible. It can be debilitating. It's frustrating. It's something that can leave you on the verge of tears. As the promised Messiah ﷺ made his way for dinner, he noticed his grief-stricken wife, and he lovingly said, "Kya chawal achhe na pakne ka afsos hai?" Are you upset the rice didn't turn out as you expected? "Ye to bahut hi achhe hain. Aise zyada gur wale hi to mujhe pasand hain." These are actually great. I prefer my rice with more sugar like this. Apathy, poor communication, harboring unrealistic expectations. These are just some of the ways we may unknowingly hurt those we care about. At a sensitive, maybe even pivotal moment in their marriage, rather than reprimand or criticize his wife, the promised Messiah ﷺ exemplified compassion, kindness, empathy, qualities that build trust and lay the foundation for success in a marriage. A marriage becomes truly special and a lasting source of peace, not just through one isolated instance, but through countless meaningful moments. And it's at the heart of these moments, the foundation for success which we find, that all point to taqwa. In Islamic marriage, it provides the loving, fulfilling qualities an ordinary relationship does. But when a person finds true love for Allah in his heart, when taqwa shapes and guides these moments, trivial matters no longer detract them from what truly matters. Sure, there's going to be arguments, there's going to be disputes. That's just how things naturally are. Even the promised Messiah ﷺ, on one occasion had raised his voice against Hazrat Amma Jaan radiallahu anha, but he immediately regretted it. He even offered nawafil, seeking forgiveness from Allah Ta'ala, and he formed the resolve never to raise his voice like that again. Marriage is not meant to be easy. It requires compromise. It requires some give, some take. Fire cannot be created without friction. Diamonds are formed because of the intense heat and pressure they have to endure. It is how these arguments are handled and what ensues afterwards that ultimately affects the quality of our relationship. It is these very marriages, the ones based on true Islamic principles, that turn our homes into a tranquil paradise. In fact, Allah the Almighty, He revealed to the promised Messiah ﷺ, He said, "Ya Ahmad, uskun anta wa zawjuka al-jannah." That, "O Ahmad, live thou and thy wife in paradise." The serenity we seek within our homes is often within our reach. Compromise, patience, forbearance, these were just some of the ways the promised Messiah ﷺ and his wife were able to enjoy a blissful life together. A small yet beautiful example of this was when Hazrat Amma Jaan radiallahu anha was a new bride in the foreign town of Qadian. Leaving your family, it's not an easy thing. It's a very emotional time. And it didn't help that the people of Qadian, they had different traditions, different customs, a different dialect altogether from the people of Delhi. It was natural for her to feel uneasy in that environment. And it was also during this time in her life that she found herself unable to sleep without the light on. The promised Messiah ﷺ, on the other hand, he had the habit of sleeping in complete darkness. But out of the love for his wife, he would stay awake, keeping the lights on until she fell asleep, and only then would he sleep himself. Hazrat Amma Jaan radiallahu anha, she would later reminisce with him, saying, "There was a time you couldn't sleep in the light. And now, unless every corner of our home is lit, you cannot sleep." This precious exchange between Hazrat Amma Jaan radiallahu anha and the promised Messiah ﷺ, it offers a glimpse into the depth of their bond, rooted in both affection and understanding. It brings to mind the timeless wisdom imparted by the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Why did he advise us to marry someone for their piety, Why has he said the best provisions for this life is a righteous wife? Why do the verses recited before every nikah mention taqwa 5 times? हर एक नेकी की जड़ ये इत्तिका है, अगर ये जड़ रही सब कुछ रहा है. The root of all goodness, all virtue, it is taqwa. If this taqwa is looked after, if it is preserved, if it remains, so will all goodness. True righteousness, it means you do your best to abandon all those qualities which hurt those around you and take you further from God. It means making a conscious effort to avoid behaviors such as lying, cheating, backbiting, hypocrisy, the very actions known to be the reason most marriages fail. Righteousness means you work every day to elevate every aspect of your life solely for the sake of Allah. It means you try and be the best you can be. We can't expect to find someone perfect if we don't even hold ourselves to that standard. This isn't something that magically happens overnight. It's something that requires a change in mindset, environment, those you surround yourselves with, and it's meant to be a lifelong endeavor. The initial groundwork for marriage, it doesn't even begin with the prospective suitor. Of course, as we mentioned, it's their responsibility to be the best they can be, to build their relationship with Allah. But our responsibility as parents begins before our child is possibly even born. The first Khalifa, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih the first radiyallahu anhu, out of his curiosity, he once asked Hazrat Mir Nasir Nawab radiyallahu anhu how he was able to procure the promised Messiah alayhi salam as his son-in-law. He replied that it was the blessings of Allah. But he also said that since this daughter of mine was born, I have never missed a salat, a prayer, in which I have not prayed that, O Allah the Almighty, whichever man is most agreeable and suitable in your eyes, make my daughter's marriage not with him. As a father in a room with parents, without a doubt, I can say we want nothing but the best for our children. When it comes to finding a suitable son or daughter-in-law, parents will often come saying righteousness is of paramount importance. You hear it often as a missionary. They'll come, they'll say, Murabbi Sahab, we'd like your help finding someone righteous for our son or daughter. We want them to be someone regular in their salat, someone who recites the Quran, someone who not only frequents the mosque, but has a love for the Khalifa in their heart. If they're looking for a girl, they'll say, we'd like her to wear the hijab, we'd like her to observe the veil. As a missionary, you naturally feel elated. These are all great qualities to look for in a spouse. So you ask, what if there was someone righteous? Someone who checks all the boxes of what you're looking for and would be a great match, but they come from a different caste. The answer to that question is where the elation begins to fade. The parents, they'll start shifting side to side, and they'll say a little uneasily, well, we want them to be righteous, but we don't want them to be from a different caste. Or we don't think we'd be open to someone of that skin color, or more surprisingly, someone of that ethnicity. It seems a bit strange, doesn't it? A little paradoxical. एक तरफ वो कहते हैं कि हमें नेक दीनदार रिश्ता दें, दूसरी तरफ कहते हैं कि अगर रंग साफ ना हो तो रिश्ता मुनासिब नहीं. On one hand, they're saying they want someone spiritually, someone morally elevated. But on the other, if their skin color is slightly too dark, they won't even consider it. It's suddenly not an okay match. What is the righteousness we seek if we readily dismiss entire demographics of people for things entirely out of their control? They'll say, no, you've misunderstood us. You're a Murabbi. You know better than us. The Holy Prophet ﷺ has said, find and marry those you're compatible with. It'd be too difficult to reconcile the cultural differences, and we wish to avoid conflicts resulting from those misunderstandings. To them, it seems like a fair observation. It is true. We do find more compatibility amongst those who share our race, our ethnicity, even our caste. But did you know that some of these very things were said concerning the promised Messiah alayhi salam and Hazrat Amma Jaan radiyallahu anha? Hazrat Mir Nasir Nawab radiyallahu anhu's relatives, they strongly opposed the marriage of the promised Messiah alayhi salam. They expressed the very sentiments we hear in the matchmaking world today. Your daughter is 18. This man is 49. He's far too old. He is a Punjabi. His language, his customs, they do not align with ours. How can you marry your daughter to a man who hardly has money for her haq mehr? Yes, he was a prophet of Allah. Of course, it was a different time with different traditions. But the success they found in their lives together was because of their righteousness and the trust they placed in Allah Ta'ala. What's really fascinating is this isn't something restricted, something that's just unique to prophets or the people of their time. By the grace of Allah, I was able to witness what marriages can flourish into when caste or ethnicity are overlooked for the sake of righteousness. I've met and known pioneering African Ahmadi Muslims who traveled to Qadian, a foreign land, knowing next to nothing of the language. Yet they expressed the strong desire to marry someone from the land of the promised Messiah alayhi salam. The women they married, they were none other than the daughters of the Dervish of Qadian. And having received these suitors and assured by their prayers and faith in Allah, they gladly married their daughters to these men. It cannot get any more incompatible, one might say. The language difference, it was so great that one of their wives, she once said that on coming to America, my husband, he offered me a hot dog. And all I could think of is what kind of strange place have I ended up where the people cook and eat dogs? It was the love of Allah and Islam that allowed them to overcome their cultural differences and build a paradise in their homes. When it comes to something as important as marriage, there's nothing wrong with having personal preferences or looking for someone compatible. Compatibility is something that can and does contribute to the health of a marriage. Choosing someone for their race, their wealth, their beauty, these things are all fine. But it is the embodiment of the true spirit of taqwa and the genuine love we show one another, as taught by the Holy Prophet ﷺ, that creates a prosperity in our homes. The purpose of the experience I shared, it's just to encourage everyone to keep an open mind when you look for a rishta. Don't let your friends, your family, don't let your culture wrongly influence you when it comes to things like this. There's times where families will hesitate to even consider a close acquaintance or a friend for a rishta. They fear it might complicate their relationship. But it's the bond created from that familiarity that ends up working in their favor. The promised Messiah, Hazrat Mir Nasir Nawab radiyallahu anhu, their families had known each other for a number of years. And it was because of that bond and their trust in Allah that both he and his wife were unaffected from the jests and jeers of their family. They knew and recognized that the promised Messiah was a man of impeccable character. The years they showed together showed him to be a devout, humble man who spent his days writing and in the worship of Allah. Finding the right partner, it can be very daunting. There's no surefire method to know if someone's going to be a good match for you or not. Even in the dating world, people, they can be in relationships for years. They feel they found the one, and when they settle down, they end up struggling. Their marriages fall apart. Marriage is and always will be a leap of faith. But as Muslims, we're fortunate to have a living God, a God who answers our prayers and guides us, just as He answered the prayers and guided those before us. A God we can find comfort and assurance in when taking that leap. The Holy Prophet ﷺ, he used to advise Muslims to turn to God for guidance on any matter and offer a method of prayer known as istikhara. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih the fifth, Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz, he's elaborated on this, saying that Allah is the knower of the unseen. He knows as to which marriage proposal is best for a person, and that is why one should always pray before making a decision. If, after praying, we feel content or disdain in our heart regarding that matter, that's how we know our istikhara was answered. Pray fervently, follow your heart. Be truthful in your approach. Before nikah, we're advised on qawli sadid, the straightforward word. I'm sure the husbands here, we can all agree how much easier our lives become when we speak to our wives in a way they can't misunderstand us. That's all qawli sadid is. Communication in the most unambiguous way possible. It's essential not just for a happy marriage, but for finding a great partner as well. This doesn't mean that one should go around disclosing every single aspect of their life. Allah is as-sattar, the one who conceals our faults and shortcomings. But sattari does not mean concealing those things which can compromise and destroy a marriage. A person can't expect to start a happy marriage if they're leading families on, if they're entertaining multiple rishtas at a time, or if they're manipulating or hiding unavoidable truths that can compromise and destroy a marriage, just for the sake of getting married sooner. Remember, true marriage is built on sincerity and taqwa. In the years leading up to his marriage, Allah the Almighty had revealed to the promised Messiah ﷺ, Ushkur ni'mati, ra'ayta Khadijati. Be grateful to me that you have found my Khadija, a prophecy so beautifully fulfilled by his wife. Hazrat Amma Jaan radiyallahu anha, she was someone who embodied qualities that paralleled those of Hazrat Khadija radiyallahu anha. Both women, they were paragons of piety and devotion, both having incredible strength of character. Hazrat Khadija radiyallahu anha, she was known for her unwavering faith, her generosity, her strength of character, and her support for the Holy Prophet ﷺ in times of great trial. Similarly, what we see is that Hazrat Amma Jaan radiyallahu anha, her life was marked by her deep spirituality, her steadfast commitment to the teachings of Islam, and an unyielding love and support for her husband's mission. She was not only a devoted wife, but a steadfast believer who sacrificed and endured hardships to nurture and uphold the divine path. Both women left indelible marks on history, demonstrating that strength, virtue, and devotion are timeless legacies that can transcend generations. Hazrat Amma Jaan radiyallahu anha, she would lightheartedly say to the promised Messiah ﷺ, that with my living in your house, the period of your blessings began. To which the promised Messiah ﷺ would respond lovingly, yes, you're right. Their son, Hazrat Mirza Bashir Ahmad radiyallahu anhu, he described their union as one heart beating in two chests. As humans, we crave and desire the love and comfort that accompany that companionship. Turn towards Allah with sincerity. Change your mindset and approach. I humbly request my unwed sisters to live your life in a way that you too can be worthy of the title Khadija. To my brothers who are not yet married, make yourselves worthy of being wed to a woman like Hazrat Khadija radiyallahu anha. Overlook the excuses, overlook the grievances that can lose you the man or woman of your dreams. Too many times I've seen compatible matches rejected for the most meaningless reasons. This boy is 5'8", he's not 5'10". Sorry, your 25-year-old daughter is too old for our 28-year-old son. We don't want anyone older than 24 for him. Or your son, he's a good guy, but his salary is a few zeros too short. Don't find excuses to fixate on superficial qualities. Many of us are familiar with the story of the orphan boy who burned his fingers one by one, refraining from vice for the sake of Allah. He upheld the principles of parda, not even glancing in the direction of the girl who sought his refuge, thinking, what face will I show Allah if I undertake such a shameful path? Upon hearing what had transpired, the first Khalifa radiallahu anhu, he urged the girl's wealthy father to marry his daughter to the young orphan. He remarked that while a poor man could be made rich, it would be very rare to find a rich man who embodied such piety and virtue. Money, beauty, wealth, these are all things that can change in the blink of an eye. Find someone who will support you unconditionally, regardless of the circumstances. If you find someone you and your parents are happy with, place your trust in Allah. As a parent, do your due diligence, but be a force for progress. Don't be an obstacle. Don't be a hindrance in the path of your child. Be regular, be consistent in your prayers. If Hazrat Mir Nasir Nawab radiallahu anhu was able to pray every day, in every salat for his daughter, then we too as parents can regularly pray for our children. It may take time, but when you're sincere, when you're truthful, then Allah will eventually provide you the best of His bounty. May Allah grant those of us who aren't married yet the comfort of their eyes, and enable those of us who are married to follow in the example of the Holy Prophet ﷺ and the promised Messiah ﷺ, and be exemplary role models for our children. Ameen. Jazakallah.